Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, November 17th, 1 week before Thanksgiving here in the United States. I am a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations internationally to help them do one thing and one thing only: get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network, I think it's 3 years ago now, to elevate the profession of sales, to have a place where salespeople can hang out, network with each other, ask questions, get advice. And if you've been with us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we either do a live training, but most often, if I could be a speaker, I'd be a professional speaker. Most often, I do an interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. And today, my friends, is once again no exception. Now, if you're the type of person who likes things very, here's how it is, here's the way things are in the world, and this is how business has to be, this may not be the interview for you. If you like very, what I'll call woo-woo stuff, this is absolutely the interview for you. And if you're not into that, I invite you to stick around anyways, because today's guest combines the two worlds. He's not only solidly in the business world, but also very much in the spiritual world. He's a business consultant. He's a life coach. He's the best-selling author of Spiritual Selling and now Spiritual Selling 2.0, and he helps other people attract the ideal client, as well as many other things. Please welcome somebody who I'm honored to call my friend, Joe Nunziata. Good morning, Joe.
Jeff, for a long time. Always great to see you, my friend.
Very happy to see you. If you're watching us live, by the way, please say hello in the comments. If you're watching us live on Facebook, but have not connected your account to StreamYard, it's not going to say your name, so put your name in there. If you have any questions for our guest, Joe, during this interview, shoot them in there, and I'll be sure to get them over to him. And finally, if you're watching us on the replay, be sure to put replay in the comments. And good morning, Bruce Casterman. Always good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here every week. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, Joe, before I get going with the 1,000,001 questions I have for you, as I always do when we speak, could you maybe give people the 2-minute version of your background, what got you to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I'll give you the twisted road, quick version. Originally from Brooklyn, New York. You know, as we know, we're New York guys. We met there. I was in California for 11 years, and I just moved to Florida last year. So kind of moving around, getting a little different energy. But I started there, was, you know, growing up there. My dad was a narcotics detective. He ended up passing on the job when I was 12. So that, of course, had a big impact. You know, when you lose somebody early, especially a father, it does have a lot of effect. I was the oldest boy. We had issues financially. I went to work right after high school. I started delivering beer. I was driving a beer truck and delivering Budweiser. Very entrepreneurial, though. Was always looking for the next thing. Ended up buying a soda delivery business, actually, which was also in Brooklyn. Turned out to be in a really dangerous neighborhood. Sharpened my fighting skills. Actually even got an illegal gun, the whole long story. But anyway, that didn't work out as you would expect. From there went into bartender. I became a bartender in New York. Did that for about 4 or 5 years, had a great time. You know, was really a great human experiment, getting to see people and talk to people and watch them. And I really honed my skills that I didn't realize I would be using later. Decided at that point, you know, shifted into getting a job, real job, whatever you want to call it, or career. Got into sales, started selling whatever we want to call, but got a job in sales selling advertising. I did pretty well, and I was, you know, I think one of the things, and you and I share this, you know, working in that hospitality world, you were used to talking to people, so talking to strangers was very easy for me. I was able to go out and did well. Always was antsy. Started another business, which was a direct mail marketing business back then, and ended up going bankrupt the second time. But even early on, as a young person in my teens, after high school, I was always reading books about improving myself, personal development, and so forth. And I started getting into psychology because I was saying, well, I don't understand it. Like I have these times when I'm doing great, and then I'm like crashing and burning, and what's going on? And it led me into the inner work, which started with psychology and therapy, and then led me into energy work. And I started to really understand how my energy worked, and how the results I was getting was based not on what I was doing, but my belief system, how I felt, the energy I was vibrating. It was so foreign. I grew up in New York Catholic, so foreign from what I learned, you know, in the church. But I got into it. I just started doing it for myself. People started asking me, what are you doing? And that's kind of how it happened. I just started teaching it by mistake. There are no mistakes, but just started helping people. And then it just all merged together into what I do now.
Outstanding. Good morning, Ray Aurora. Thanks for joining us. And also John Hill, always good to see you. So, Joe, a lot of people are still selling based on old ideas and old beliefs. What are some of those ideas and beliefs, and how will this play out moving forward?
So I think you and I, because we're in the same generation, right? We grew up in New York. Selling in New York was, I always tell people, that was the original Shark Tank. That was where you wanted to be. So it was kill or be killed, zero-sum game. You made the sale or you didn't. If you didn't make the sale, you would, it was just like, it was a harsh way to work, and if it wasn't going well, they would say, yeah, you're not making the phone calls, you're not doing that, everything you weren't doing, everything you were doing wrong. And that was kind of the way we did it. And it was a very difficult environment to survive in. If you survived it, you knew you had something. So that was the way we learned it. And I will say, and you do this too, because I still go into companies, a lot of companies are still doing this. It shocks me because I'm like, you're still doing this in this world that we're in today, because they're so stuck in the fear of doing something else and saying, oh, this is the way you have to do it. This is the way it works. It's all numbers. It's all metrics. Now, listen, I'm a data guy. I believe in analyzing numbers. It's all part of the game. But it's not the only part of the game. And that's what I see. Now, as we are evolving and getting into higher energy frequency on the planet, people are changing how they operate and how they respond to things. So those tactics, as we continue to go forward, will not work. And we're already seeing that. And it doesn't work anymore because people, first of all, have a lot of information. The first thing someone does if they want to work with Jeff Goldberg is they're going to Google Jeff Goldberg. And they want to find out who Jeff Goldberg is, what's going on, does he have bad reviews, what does he do? So if you have a clean, people say to me, wow, I Googled you, you're clean. I don't see anything bad about you. I said, well, that's intentional. That did not just happen by mistake. So now the importance of, as we go forward, we're moving from, what I always say is this, we're moving from it's all about me to it's all about us. That's the energy we're moving into. So instead of being in a zero-sum game, which is one winner, one loser, we're moving into what is now called a non-zero-sum game. And this is math theory. But basically a non-zero-sum game is both parties win. Both parties walk away feeling like this is good. This is what I want to do. It works for both of us. And that is where we're going as we go forward. We're still not there. There's still, I would say, a majority of companies, or a large amount, are still in the old vibration of energy, but we're going to a service world, and it's about learning how to build that where there's a reciprocity between both parties, and that's where we're going.
Wow. So I'm listening to you speak, and the only thought in my head is, how do I get Joe Nunziata to address the Congress of the United States? Because they do not seem to be up. I mean, it's really, I want to really focus on sales and relationship and spirituality. But you say, we're moving to this higher level, and it's all about us. But there still seems to be a large portion, at least in America and maybe the world, that are really stuck in the absolute opposite. It's I kill you or I'm going to be killed. Right. Kind of like what you talked about in New York. It was kill or die. So, why is that? And is there anything that people like yourself can do and me to help make that shift? Because it's not working. Clearly, it's not working right now.
Well, the first thing, you mentioned government. I use this example a lot when I go in to speak at a company. And I'll say, okay, let's say you're starting a company and the first thing you want to do is build a culture, which that should be the first thing you want to do. You want to build a winning culture. If I said to you, okay, Jeff, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a red team, we're going to have a blue team, and we're going to keep fighting each other all the time to make any progress. You would say, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. This is the way our government works. Our government works with two opposing teams who have different agendas and have tremendous egos and are only interested in personal gain, right? That is what we have. So that is why the current structure that we have will not last. This is going down. Now, people can say, well, America, every empire, and this is an empire, has crashed because of that. The Romans crashed because of that. The Egyptians crashed because of the Persians. They all went down because of ego and desire to control. And that's what happened. So unfortunately, because humans, that's how we function in many cases. And we don't see, oh, okay, we need to work together because we're all one energy. But as long as we're in an egoic state, that is not happening. Now, obviously, this is something you and I are not part of this. Well, we are because we're part of the world, but energetically, that system is destined to fail. And this country is going to fail, and it needs to fail so it could be rebuilt in a different way. But that's really where we're going. This is getting into a little bit heady stuff, but we're going into a place where you could see so clearly that it doesn't work. I mean, I don't have to be a genius to look at this and say, this system, it's like if you had a business and you say, okay, we're trying to produce this product, and every time we try to make it, it comes out bad. You would say, it's like a recipe, right? You say, okay, I need to change it. And they're so dug in, these people, that they're not willing to look at the other side and say, okay, how do we do this together? And I don't think it was always that bad. I think it's evolved to this point now because this is where we are as people. But it's interesting, and I think that's going to be part of it. And eventually, like I said, energy seeks a level, and it's going to blow up.
Yeah, the system itself is flawed. I mean, it's the way it was intended to work should work well.
Yeah.
You got two sides with opposing views, but they come together, negotiate, work things out for the better of everybody. But you said it; it's ego and it's money driven, and I truly fear that unless we somehow elect people to Congress who are willing to vote against their own interests, in other words, vote against their interests, they're not going to be able to keep their jobs, but they're going to set things straight. We are screwed. I'm fearful. Let's get off of that one because
that we can do that all day. But anyway,
absolutely, positively. Good morning, Mark Siegel, personal mind trainer. Good to see you, my friend, and John Hill. So, why is it that owners and managers are so attached to the old way of doing things? Why don't they see, you know what, there is a better way?
Basically, it's fear, which is the same thing we're talking about with government, right? It's fear of loss of control, and fear that what happens. And it's funny. I've had people call me, at high-level executives who read my book. They said, Joe, I love this. I love your concept, but I'm afraid that if I put this in and it doesn't work, I'm going to lose my job. So there's a fear. We human beings have a tremendous fear of change. It's just built into us. And if you study history, every single invention that we have, people were terrified. Electricity, they thought everybody's going to die. Printing press, it was coffee. Every single invention that we have, people resisted. I remember when TV came out, and I was reading articles in old newspapers of people say, "Oh, this is a fad. Nobody's going to watch TV." We know the same thing happened with computers. I remember working in the 90s in a company. The guy who was the sales manager at that time was in his 50s, which now I consider very young. But back then I was a young kid, and he was so resistant to the technology because he was afraid of it, and he ended up losing his job. So there's a fear of trying. This is why I love adventurers and inventors, because those are the people that change the world. The people say, yeah, I'm willing to do it differently. I'm willing to try something new. And there's a lot of fear of loss. And if you're in a fear-based energy, it's never going to end up good, but it's very prevalent.
So you say that, we're going through so many shifts of energy right now. What are the actual shifts, and how will that affect us in the business world?
So what's happening is we just had a major shift this week. So what happened was on November 11th, we had what was called the portal, 1111 portal, which opens up and brings in very high vibration. Then on Monday, we had a new moon. So they kind of work together. What's happening is we keep shifting as more people are what I call waking up. The energy of the planet goes higher. So as the energy goes higher, people start to move into a different space and then start to shift their desires. So they start to see the big picture. They start to lose the ego. They start to realize we need to work together. So this is where we're going to start going. This is how this is affecting us. Now, again, it's affecting everybody differently. So it's almost like the same thing as we're talking about. We have a lot of people, and the way this is how you would know who's who. If somebody's really attached to the physical world, so they're attached to money, they're attached to their car, they're attached to their title. Now, again, I'm gonna qualify this. It doesn't mean you can't have that. You can have a car, a nice car, you can have a title, all good. Are you attached? So the attachment creates the fear. And also the attachment is tied to the ego. I love when I meet people and I say, "Hey, you doing?" And they say, "Oh, hi, I'm Bill. I'm the president of the company." So I'm like, okay, I didn't ask you that, but if that's what you feel like you have to tell me right away, you're attached to that. So there are people who are very attached to the 3D world, which we call it the third dimension, the physical world. Those people are going to go down fighting because they're not giving it up. And then the other people who are going up are saying, okay, I'm not so attached to all this stuff anymore. I'm more altruistic. I'm looking at the big picture. I want to understand that we're here to help each other and create a better society. So this is the split that we're going to have the next few years. The divide is going to get bigger. And we're going to ultimately end up almost in like two worlds, where you're going to have people in world A, which they call the new Earth, and people in world B, which are going to be the super, I'm holding on for dear life. And that's kind of where we're going.
I think we're actually living in two worlds now. You've got the Fox News world and the MSNBC world, and it really does. I mean, I've watched both. It seems like it's two different planets. It's absolutely insane.
And again, no judgment. They both have both have good points and both have bad. It's not good or bad. And everybody wants to make one good and one bad. No, one side says certain things. You say, "Wow, okay, that's interesting," and the other side says certain things. You say, "Okay," but somewhere in between is probably the truth. We don't know where it is.
Yeah, I have some strong opinions on that. I think one is based in reality and the other one is based in non-reality. But let's move off of that. Do you think this energy shift is part of what's causing a massive leaving of the church and the rise of atheism?
Yeah, because the church is also, organized religion is based on fear, and that's what I grew up in Catholic school. That it was all fear based. So when you study, I've studied a lot of history because that's kind of my thing. I love it. All the religions were created and written to control people and hold them in fear. So the two most powerful energies in the universe are love and fear. So that's not a love-based circumstance. That's not a love-based organization. It's a fear-based organization. So as people are elevating, they're saying, I don't want to be in a fear-based organization. I want to be in a love-based. I want to be in the other side. So that's why, like tomorrow, I'm speaking at a holistic center over here. We have groups that come, and these are people who just say, this is not working for me anymore because it's not serving my higher self. It's all based on fear. And again, back then, when we were in school, everything was sins, and you did something wrong, and you're evil, and Jesus died for your sins, and all these things so you're a little kid. Think about this. You're 6, 7 years old, and you're sitting and a nun in a Darth Vader outfit is telling you that, Jesus died for your sins. And you're like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't know what I did. I'm 6. So, but this penetrates into everybody from a young age. But the younger people, see, we in our generation, it was like you kind of just did what your parents told you. Now that's not happening. Now the young people, I have a son who's 30. You have the kids in the same age range. They're not like that. They're not like, yeah, I'm following. They're like, absolutely not. That's BS. I'm not doing that. They're in a whole different space. So that's what you have now. The young people are not just dogmatically following what their parents did. They're looking for their own path, creating a new economy, creating a whole different way to work. They're not looking to go to work and say, oh yeah, I'm going to work for a company for 30 years and get benefits. They're saying, hey, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to create a lifestyle that works for me and make the most money. It's a whole different world, which is good. Again, everything has yin yang, positive, negative energy, but we're definitely getting away from anything organized. That is this, even when you see these guys on TV, same thing. They're preaching, they're getting money from people. They're trying to create this feeling that if you come here, I'm going to save you. This is not what we want to do. This work is all about one thing. I always tell people, work with people who want to empower you. If their message is you need me, run. Don't walk, run. Go to people. When I work with people, I'm like, hey, I'm going to show you how to do this. You're going to do it yourself. I don't want to be talking to you 20 years from now unless we're going out for a coffee. I don't want to be doing that. So this is about empowerment. Empowerment means I need to know what to do. I need to know how the energy works. I need to know how to move myself forward. It's about getting empowered. And that's where we want to live.
So is that what you suggest moving forward that we should be doing as the energy shift? How can I be empowered?
Yeah, because you want to understand empowering yourself is the key to success. So you want to be able to say, okay, what's happening? How do I deal with the energy and what what is happening in my life and how do I move myself forward in a positive way. A lot of this is also tied to your karmic journey, which is things you need to learn. But what we're looking to do is understand it at a higher level and not get caught up in the day-to-day, grind it out, go from point A to point B, come home, pay my bills, go start over Monday. It's opening up your scope and expanding how you see everything and understand that whatever's happening in your life is happening to show you something to help you elevate to the next level if you choose to do so. And it's a different way to look at life, really, in a big picture.
And it keeps showing it to you over and over until you actually learn the lesson or not, right?
Until you learn the lesson. And then the other part of it is there's two phases. So the first part is I know what it is, which is a big phase for a lot of people. But a lot of people think, and this is something I learned doing the work at a deeper level, which was a lot of people say, okay, once I understand that, I'm good. I'm like, no. You understand it, but you haven't dealt with the emotional element of it. So you have to learn how to identify that emotion, deal with those feelings. And it's like, so for me, I had very deep feelings of unworthiness that created bankruptcies. It wasn't that I didn't work hard. It wasn't that I wasn't smart. It wasn't any of that. It was that my inability to receive, which goes back to when you were young, which goes back to your ability to receive love based on how you grew up. And then that connects into all areas of your life, your health, your relationships. For me, very much in the career area. So I had to get past those feelings in order to move myself forward. It wasn't about working harder, which is what I think we learned. Oh, you're not working hard enough. Oh, you're doing something wrong. It really was internally, I was not aligned with the emotions and the feelings of receiving and being successful and feeling good about myself. So that was a much bigger hurdle than just saying, oh, I understand. I understand that I need to work harder, or whatever people think.
It's interesting that you mentioned bankruptcy. I've also declared bankruptcy twice. And if you read the Forbes 400 list, the majority, other than people who inherited their wealth, most of them have declared bankruptcy at some point in their life. I'm not sure what the relationship is there, but do you have any thoughts on that? Why is it that so many highly successful people at some point went bankrupt, sometimes more than once?
Because when you go outside the lines, which is what those people have done, right? Basically, you have to look at, okay, so let's look at what happened. The world is structured for the rich people to control the population and suck the blood out of everybody else. So it's like, okay, here's what we want these people to do. We want them to go to school. We want them to get in debt. We want them to get a job. We want them to pay taxes. That's what we want them to do. That's the way the structure is built. So if you walk that line, your life will be easier because you'll be able to say, okay, and not that your life is going to be great. Basically what it is, to me, I call it modern day slavery. It's slavery. It's just, like I say, we're slaves with carpeting now. We're not slaves like in the Roman Empire, but we're still slaves. People are slaves to their debt. People are slaves to their job. People are slaves to taxes. So now when somebody says, I don't want to do this, I'm going to be Spartacus, one of my favorites, my favorite movie. And Spartacus says, F this, I'm out. I'm breaking out. Now, if I choose that path, that's going to be harder because I am going against the way the system was built. And that's why you have to learn how to now operate outside the box that has been built to keep you in. So that's why a lot of people don't make it, because they go outside the box, they try, and you need fortitude to get through the beginning, because you're gonna have problems. Nobody does it. Nobody I met who is successful, as you said, on their own. Not one person said, "Oh yeah, it was a whole breeze." Right? Did you meet anybody who said, "Oh, Jeff, yeah, I started and everything was just great"? Nobody said that. Everybody said, "Oh yeah, I went through this and I had no money and I lost everything and I came back." So think about how many people are willing to do that, and most people are not, which is why. Now, the younger people, I think, they're kind of out of that mindset more so. But that's really why, because it's so easy. Humans are going to always choose the path of least resistance. What's the path of least resistance? Go to school, get a job, work in a company, get benefits, get a gold watch after somebody. This is easy. It's easy to do that. I see my friends who have done it. And again, eventually a lot of them lost their jobs because of what happened. But it's easier than saying, I'm going to blaze a trail and I'm going to get in the arena and I'm going to be willing to die, so to speak, and meaning I'm going to fail. And I'm going to accept that I am going to go through failure. That's why I love inventors, because inventors are going to go do a million versions until like Edison, when he said he did 1,000 light bulbs until he got the right one. And the guy said, oh, you failed 1,000 times. And Edison said, no, I know 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. So that was like, but that's the mentality of that person, right? I'm going to get it right, but I'm willing to go through what has to happen. And I think most people truthfully are not.
Yeah, I think it was actually 10,000.
Whatever it was. I know.
I learned 9,999 ways to not invent a light bulb. And it's interesting if you actually study it, and I'm sure you have, but our education system, and certainly our primary education system, is not designed to teach creativity. It's designed to create workers.
Yeah. It's again, the whole structure, including religion, is all drone based. I want to create drones and plug them into the system. It's like the Matrix. If you saw the Matrix, that's what this is. We're sucking the blood out of your body to use that energy to run the Matrix. That's exactly what it is.
So what are some of the daily practices that we can incorporate into our lives that will actually help us get aligned with this higher energy and allow us to, I don't want to say take advantage, but prosper from it?
So the first thing we need is, I always say, unplug. We're too plugged. So yesterday, just to give you an example, I go to the gym and I'm walking into the gym. I actually put it on Facebook because it was so funny. But I'm walking into the gym, and when the gym I go to, on the left-hand side, there's a big glass window where there's a pool and a whirlpool. And there's a guy with his back to me, and he's sitting in the whirlpool, and he's got his whole body in the water, and he's got the phone above himself. And I'm just like, you're in the whirlpool. This is like this is supposed to be the most relaxing part of your day, right? I'm sitting in a whirlpool. Why am I looking at my phone? So people have to get quiet, which they don't do. So first thing I do every morning, I get up and I meditate. So I think people don't think of meditation as a whole ordeal. It could be literally 3, 4, 5 minutes a day. And if you've never done it before, you want it, because here's what happens. When you get up and you wake up in the morning, you want to set the tone and intent for your day. You don't want to start people get up, they're like, oh, I have my phone on the side of my bed. And in the night, people tell me this, I'm sure you are looking at my phone at night. I'm looking to see, I use it as my alarm clock. I look at it right away before I do anything. This is not the way to start your day. You're starting disrupted. You're already in a disrupted energy. So the first thing you want to do is get up. You want to find a spot in your house, wherever you live, that's going to be your meditation spot. The reason you do that is your higher self knows, oh, this is my zone. I have like 2 spots in my house that I do. And the minute you sit down, it's almost like your unconscious says, oh, this is my spot to be quiet. So you want to sit up. You cannot lay down. You don't want to be in the bed. You want to sit up. You can lean against the bed or lean against a chair, whatever it is. Sit up straight. You cross your legs if you can. And then in the beginning, if this is new to you, you just want to sit quietly and breathe. And you want to clear your mind. So if you have a problem doing that, if you're new at this, if you count your breath and just count it to yourself, inhale on a 4, exhale on a 4, and just sit quietly and allow yourself to just nicely start the day in a calm energy, and then set your intent. Okay, this is what I want to do today. And my intention is always, how do I serve? How can I serve? And how do I help more people? What is the best way for me to do that? And then, again, I always do, nowadays, I do a protection around myself because there's a lot of negative energy. So what I do is I envision myself in white light, and I just say, oh, please protect me, my energy field, from negativity, because there's a lot of negative energy also. And so what that's doing is that's starting your day in a very different manner than jumping out of bed like a lot of people do, or run the shower, look at their phone, whatever they're doing. And I will tell you that it starts you in a whole different way. And then after that, I actually do about 15 minutes of stretching and yoga positions and just stretch my body. And then I go to the gym 3, 4 times a week also. But so by the time I'm up, I've already meditated 30 minutes or so, depending on the day, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. I've already done this whole 1 hour morning ritual, and I'm in a whole different space, right? So again, the way you start the day is important. And that alone will elevate your energy. It also opens up your connection to your higher self, which is really what we all have, that ability to really get the messages that are coming in and then follow that guidance forward.
Love that. And I could not agree more. Of course, I have a ritual that I do every morning as I'm walking the dog, and I'm speaking to myself out loud and setting up my day for success and positivity. I'm with you 1,000,000%. By the way, John Hill agrees with you. He says Joe should run for president of the United States because he has common sense and understands the problems.
John Hill, good to see you. It's been a while.
You know, Johnny, what a character.
Yeah, I know John, sure.
And Dr. Rich Atkins says, I fully agree that providing a development service for others is to empower them. I say the goal is for you to get to a point where you don't need me, not an addictive subscription style. So, Joe, tell us about your new book. Is Spiritual Selling 2.0 the same original book with a couple of edits, or is this completely new? Tell us about that.
No, so what happened was Spiritual Selling came out in 2007. Which back then everybody thought I had lost my mind. I was in New York, and people said, "What the hell?" Because I was just like a sales trader guy, like, you know. And people said, "What do you?" Like, that's kind of. I came out of the closet. Actually, I had come out of the closet in 2005 at one of Ellen's events when I did. She asked me to. I was working with Ellen Volpe, who I know a lot of us know, and then she asked me to do a presentation, and she all of a sudden filled up a room with 200 people, and I decided, and I'm out here talking about all these energies work, and that was kind of the beginning. But so that I ended up getting a deal for Spiritual Selling, came out in 2007. About 2 years ago, they said to me, you know, we're going to give the rights back because the book had been older. So I said, oh, this is a good opportunity for me to take the book in. I actually took the book. I added 4 new chapters. I did some edits to the interior, just kind of refreshed the book and added, like I said, some new material to the book, like four different chapters, and then republished it again as Spiritual Selling 2.0. So the basic fundamentals are there. I just added some things and made a few edits, and that's it.
And what's the purpose of spiritual selling? The philosophy. I mean, you used to do what I do: train salespeople on the skills of selling. Here's how you open a meeting. Here's how you establish rapport and things like that. But your spiritual selling is way more.
Well, what we want to do is let people understand. One of the things I added to the book this time, I call it E squared. And E squared is energy and expertise. So it's understanding the marriage of those two things. And it's so if you want to be successful, obviously there's certain things you're going to do in this physical world. Like you have to know what you're talking about. You have to be able to present. You have to be able to, do the work, right? You have to be able to do that. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to be able to answer questions. This is all the expertise that we want to have to do anything, like what I do now. Same thing. Or what you do, same. The energy side is what was always missing. So the energy is understanding, how do you feel? Where is your energy at? Do you feel confident? What's going on energetically inside of you? And when you marry those two together, now you've got the superstar, because that person has got not only the expertise, but they also have the vibrational energetic alignment to be at a super high level of going out there with the idea of, I'm going out here to serve. See, different. I'm not going out here to sell. I'm going out here to serve. Very different. So when I walk into somebody, and you and I have been there, because we're, the worst person to sell is us, because we know what you're doing, right? You and I walk into a place, a salesperson comes up to me. I'm like, I know what you're doing before you do it. I've been there too many years. So I know if you're there to help me or if you're there to sell me. Now, even if you don't know that, on a higher unconscious level, you vibe that out, right? You get the vibe. Like, I know if somebody's like legit or if they're just looking to take my money. So the first is, my intent is service. How do I help you? And then how do we create a deal that works for both of us, where we have an even exchange of energy? Now, one of the things with salespeople and many business owners and entrepreneurs, they give a lot and don't receive. That's an imbalance. We don't want that. I have to be comfortable with receiving and understand that that's part of the game. So I'm giving something, I want to receive something back to maintain a balance, and that's it. But my intent is, I'm going to help you, I'm going to serve you, I'm going to do everything I can to make your life better. And as a result, I am going to receive whatever compensation I am going to receive for that. So that's different than saying, I'm going out there to make a sale so I can make my quota, so I can make my bonus. Not to say you don't want to do those things, but you want it to almost be organic as opposed to being forced. And that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, and it can't be, I need you to buy for me because I have a mortgage payment due.
Right.
I call it
Not right.
commission breath. Prospects can smell commission breath when you need the sale and you're just there because I got to close the deal. And I once again, I could not agree with you more. I say sales is serving. Your intention has to be each and every time, even if you are broken about to get evicted, it's got to be, I'm here to serve you if I possibly can. And that's where you create that even exchange. Now, tomorrow, I saw that you're having a meeting of what you call the Good Vibes Tribe, which I like the sound of. And tomorrow's discussion is going to be on how the law of attraction really works.
Right.
I'm not sure if anybody doesn't know, but for those of you who don't know, for those of us who don't know, can you explain what the law of attraction is and how it really works?
So there, in the world that we live in, we have what we call natural laws, meaning these laws affect everybody the same way. So one of those laws would be gravity, right? We all have gravity. I can't get up today and say, I'm not interested in gravity today. I'm not, because it's there. I can't avoid it. So law of attraction is basically the same thing. So the way law of attraction works basically is everything in the world is energy. You have to see everything as energy. So that means you, me, this microphone in front of me, my shirt, everything, that moon picture behind me, all these things, everything is energy. So even an object is energy. It's just vibrating at a lower frequency. And if you had a super microscope and you looked at a rock, for example, you would see energy particles. So everything is energetic. In our level, because we're higher vibration than, of course, a rock, we are vibrating energy all day. And your vibration of energy creates a frequency, and the frequency is like your fingerprint or your signature. So so Jeff's frequency and Joe's frequency are going to be different. I'm going to have a frequency, you're going to have a frequency. So that energy is what's going out into the world, and then that energy brings things to you. So all day long, you're attracting things into your life. And, it could be something small, could be something big, but it's all based on, now where people miss the boat on law of attraction is people think it's mental. Oh, if I focus on this, because I think people got caught up in the idea of manifesting. And there's nothing wrong with manifesting, don't get me wrong. I think it's a good thing. But they think, it's all just about manifesting. So I'm going to put a picture of a car on my refrigerator, and then I'm going to keep looking at it every day until it shows up in my driveway. You could do that, that's fine, because again, there's no judgment in the world of energy. So the bigger way it works is, okay, I want to understand what I'm actually bringing in, because that's reflecting how I feel about myself. So that's the bigger way to use it at a higher level, to say, okay, first thing I do every day, when I go out, I want to see how are people reacting to me, right? Are they being nice to me? Are they opening a door? Are they friendly? Like, that tells me where my vibe is at. I used to make a joke for New Yorkers you could appreciate. I used to say, when I went into New York City and I got a parking spot, I knew I had good vibes. I had good, because I attracted a parking spot. But it sounds stupid, but it's kind of like, okay, your energy is vibing, right? You're in a good vibe. Now we know if I'm not in a good energy, or I'm in a negative energy, or I'm in a fear-based energy, whatever the case, I'm going to attract something in that's going to be not as good, right? I'm going to attract negative things into my life. And this is happening all day long. Now, some of the things you're going to attract in are going to be challenges and difficulties, which is part of your karma and your journey anyway. So the idea is, if I attract something difficult, or I attract something that doesn't work out the way I would like it to, the real key to success is to say, what do I do with that energy when it happens? And what, unfortunately, Jeff, what most people do is they become a victim, right? I didn't get the deal. This didn't work out. So either they blame somebody else, or they push it off, or they blame the economy, or they say, oh, this guy's a jerk, or whatever they do. Instead of saying, they're asking the wrong question. Instead of blaming and being a victim, the first thing you should say to yourself is, why did I bring that into my life today? What is the reason it's there? It's there for a reason, for you to learn something and for you to understand something. That's why it's there. So you have to know how to process that correctly. Now, on the other side, if you bring in something really positive, that is a validation that you are going in a good direction. So let's say, wow, I brought in a great client today. Oh, this guy called me out of left field, and all of a sudden I got a great opportunity, or I had an idea that came to me out of nowhere. It's been great. Those are validations. So we're getting it on both sides. So we're getting positive to say, yeah, okay, you're going in the right, that's where you're supposed to be going. And if we get it, and again, there really is no positive, negative, we just perceive it like that. But if I get something that's disruptive, that's my inner work. That's what I have to say, okay, how do I feel about that without making myself a victim and projecting it out? Or the other thing people do is they will use substances or something else to mask how they feel, whether it's drugs or alcohol or shopping or cleaning or whatever. I've seen it all. And the idea is when it goes wrong, so to speak, you need to sit with it and understand what's going on. So that's really what's happening all day, every day to everybody. And you're creating your life every day based on that energy and those emotions that you're holding. The more you understand that and the more you deal with the issues quickly at a deeper level, then you keep elevating and empowering yourself. The more you don't, you keep lowering your energy. One thing people don't understand, energy is always moving. So you're never stagnant. Even if you think you are, if you're not dealing with issues, you're going lower. And if you're dealing with issues, you're going higher. And if you keep ignoring something, what'll happen is something will happen. Like I've seen people, they keep ignoring emotional issues. Some people manifest it as illness because their body creates an illness because they're not dealing with the emotion, and everybody's going to create a different issue. But that does happen. So all illnesses that we have are also created by us because of an imbalance in our energy field. And that's what's going on. I hope that was clear. I don't know if that was a clear explanation.
Well, let me ask you this. So if we're attracting everything into our life, positive, negative, or in between, why do so many people consistently attract negative things into their life? I mean, I don't think anybody wakes up and goes, really hope I get some bad news today.
Yeah,
so
no.
Why are we doing that?
Well, first of all, it's not conscious, right? Nobody woke up this morning and said, I hope I get hit by a car, right? Nobody got up with that thought. Now, but if you have to understand how energy works on the premise of focus and expansion. So if I'm focusing on fear, I'm focusing on paying my bills, I'm focusing on a bad relationship, I'm focusing on negative things, that's what I'm going to bring in. Because that's really where my energy is. My focus and attention is not on something good. It's on something negative. And because people really have been conditioned to be victims, they just hold themselves. We call that the karmic wheel. So you just keep going around the wheel, around and around, because what you're not dealing with the issues. It's not about again, I want to be clear. It's doing something different is part of it. But if you don't deal with that deeper emotional issue, you can't break the cycle. So what people do is they say, for example, I have a bad relationship. I'm going to break up with this person and go out with somebody else. Okay, that's fine. But if your energy is the same, you're going to attract a worse version of that person. The same thing if I had a bad job, I'm going to get a new job. Okay, that's a good idea. But if I don't have a different energy, it's like attracting clients, right? When I was going bankrupt, I attracted clients who did not pay me and did not appreciate me. That was an issue I had from childhood. So I knew, okay, I have to work through this feeling of unworthiness and feeling unappreciated because that's how both of my parents made me feel. I need to work through that because if I don't, I'm going to just keep bringing that in. And your higher self and your soul is saying, I'm going to keep bringing this in until you get it. And I will tell you, there are certain people who will never get it because they don't have the capacity to get it. And secondly, this may sound crazy, but people are addicted to being upset. They really are. They get addicted to that oh, my life is hard. I got all these problems. This is what's going on. You can't believe it. The drama. Watch television and you will see every show, all these reality shows. What are they? Fighting, drama, upset. Now, I don't really watch them. I mean, but you can't help but see a commercial or whatever it is. But that's what people are. A lot of people are addicted to that, which is why the bottom line is I can't watch those shows. They're so upsetting to me. But most people, millions of people are watching those shows and making those people celebrities because they relate and they want to be upset. And again, I don't judge it, but that's why they're stuck.
Yeah, I also don't watch those. I have zero interest in the Real Housewives of anywhere. I live in reality. I don't have to be watching reality on TV.
Which is not really reality, but whatever they want to call it.
Exactly right. And what you said about, I'll get a different girlfriend, I'll move to a different place. it so rings true. Years and years ago, when I was managing sales teams for Encyclopedia Britannica, one of my guys came to me who was kind of struggling, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to resign. I'm not making it here." I said, "Okay, what are you going to do?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to move to Florida. Girls are friendlier there, and jobs are better, and I'm going to do that." And in a very nice way, I might have actually used these words. I said, "Look, man, you do whatever is right for you, but when you move to Florida, guess what's still going to be there? You. And if you don't change you, it doesn't matter where you are." And about a year later, I was driving through the Midtown Tunnel, and I looked at the car in the next lane, and it was a taxi. Who was driving it? Him.
Yeah. You can't escape yourself. Now, the other part of that is sometimes you do get a vibe to move somewhere, which happened to me when I moved to California. And it was a good move. It was something that I needed to do for my soul. So again, it's not, but it wasn't escaping. It was just like saying, okay, you know what? I'm feeling like, this is a change I want to make for a positive. I wasn't doing it because I was trying to escape something. But so that's also something of sometimes, because we all of us in our energy field, we will do better in different places based on how our vibration is. So, and then we decided last year, we said, you know what, this California has changed. We've been here 11 years. After COVID, it got really bad and shutdowns and all that. So we said, we want to get out, and we ended up moving here to Florida. And I will tell you that what is very interesting, because people ask me, they're like, what's the difference? I said, well, California, the people are more, I don't want to be judgmental, but they're a little more shallow, and they're kind of disconnected. They're almost like, they don't call it La La Land for no reason. And you could see the difference on the East Coast, and we're East Coasters. And here, of course, you have a lot of Northeast people as well. There's a different level of friendliness in this area versus that side. So it's a different energy. It's a different vibe. Not say better or worse, which is different. And I did notice it right away when we came. And I said, wow, you walk in and somebody just like there, people are talking and they're more open. And over there it was kind of more like, I'm just doing my own thing. And everybody just got very disconnected. And it was a different kind of feeling. But again, you want to go with that feeling if it's something positive, not just to run away.
Got it. There's nothing wrong with moving or getting a new girlfriend or a new job or anything. But if you're doing it to escape what you're stuck in and think that something else is going to make your life that much better, probably not, unless you change the inner thought. You recently, I saw, started a new offering, which I hadn't seen before from you, business breakthrough consulting sessions. I think most of us in sales are looking for breakthroughs in terms of our higher levels of success and certainly financially. So what are these consulting sessions about? How do they work?
Well, I thought, for a long time, I actually was busy working on a lot of corporate projects, and I was not really working a lot with, clients as much. So when I moved, I kind of finished a bunch of stuff, and I said, I'm going to get back to like getting in the trenches and working with these people. So what I did is I wanted to offer a session just to have a conversation with somebody first and to see if, what's going on with them and if I could help them. So basically the business breakthrough session is about understanding where you are, where you want to go, and what you feel is in between you and where you're going. And is there something, and it could be, and again, it's a combination when I work with people of strategy, and also it's going to also be their energy. And it was funny, I had a guy that I worked with recently who was a real estate, he's a mortgage guy. And, his processes were lacking, no question. And we did work on that. But the one thing he said to me when we were done, and by the way, now it's been about a year and a half ago, he said, my business is about 10 times expanded since we worked together. And he said, although all the processes were great and it really helped, he said, you helped me become and appreciate and be confident in myself and my ability. And I never was. So that's why I say all those processes and all that important. But he said, without that, he said, I never saw myself as the expert that I really was after 30 years in the mortgage industry. I always thought I was just like, okay. And that was his breakthrough. His breakthrough was not, I can teach anybody the process. But you've got to get the energy of the confidence. So that to me is like my greatest story. I'm like, okay, this guy's life has just gotten so, and he said, I just feel so much better and I'm dressing different and all these, and it's like, he started dating a different girl and he had been divorced. He said, it's just like a whole different vibe. So that's really what it's about. It's about getting people to break through, not only in, okay, you do maybe need some technical help, but it's going to be a lot of energy work as well.
Yeah. When I do sales coaching and I work with a lot of clients on that, I always tell them, look, about 50%, maybe 60% of what you and I do is going to be technique. Here's what you say, here's what you do, here's the process. The other 40 to 50% is we're working on your mind, because sales is a mental game. And I worked with an incredibly special coach about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And when I started working with her, before I started working with her, she said, look, if you're working with me to make more money, don't. Don't. I'm not here to help you make more money. I'm here to help you be the best possible version of yourself. Right. But I'll tell you this, everybody who works with me ends up making more money. God damn it, she was not lying. She never once taught me a technique or here's how you sell, but she's not a sales coach. But so many incredible shifts from me working on me, including completely 180-degree shift of my relationship with my ex-wife, which, to say the least, was not terrific before that. And it changed in an instant. It's amazing when you get the right, we'll call it teacher, like yourself and like my coach Liz, who just knows how to guide you in the right direction. I often say she made me this, but all she did was help me to do it. And isn't that what you do, Joe? You don't make the change for anybody. We have to do the work ourselves.
You can't. It's like being in good shape, right? I can show you how to exercise, but I can't do the exercise, right? You have to do it. And that's the difference with people. When I work with people who have been successful, they did the work. Because again, empowerment is I know how to do it. Empowerment is not Joe has to tell me how to do it, right? The empowerment is, oh, Joe showed me how to do it, and now I am mastering it myself. I am doing it. I don't want you to be calling me 10 years from now. You should learn the process. And again, people will call me in between and say, I need a quick tweak or whatever. That's fine. But the bottom line is they've been empowered because they know. People will email me from 20 years ago and say, Joe, I'm using the exact processes that you taught me 20 years ago, and I'm still elevating. Because, the one thing about being here in the physical world here, there is no end. You always have an opportunity to elevate. And we just keep growing. And if we choose to, we can keep elevating and growing. And that's the beauty of being here. There is no end. You don't get to the end. There is no diploma. You just keep rolling forward. And that's the thing about people who expand that I love, that they keep growing and expanding. I look at myself or yourself and I say, wow, if I look at myself 10 years ago versus now, it's a whole different. It doesn't mean I was bad 10 years ago, but the evolution of where you come forward is dramatic. And, if you put the work in. But again, and other people I see, when I go back to New York and I see family and friends and I'm like, this person's in the same place they were 30 years ago. They're still there. They're still exactly in the same place. So it doesn't happen. And this is the one thing I say to people, especially when they have made these breakthroughs. I'm like, it doesn't just happen. It happens because you put the effort, time, energy in to make it happen. And that is the key to making these great changes in your life. And that's the whole game. So 100%, Jeff. And that's why every time I have the same experience, people say, yeah, Joe, this was great. These were great things. I definitely did work. But that other side was the ticket.
Yep. And I love what you said about, I don't want you to be calling me 20 years from now. That's my check. And look, I'm not against therapy at all. I think if you need therapy, go get therapy. But therapists tend to keep you going for. I used to be a huge fan of Howard Stern. I've kind of lost interest in him over the last few years. But Howard used to talk all the time about the same psychiatrist he's been seeing for 30 years, 3-4 times a week. I mean, if you're paying somebody to help you make shifts in your life, and it takes 4 times a week for 30 years, you're with the wrong person.
Yeah, there's something wrong. And I remember when I went to therapy, when I stopped, because again, the therapist will never tell you to stop. Now I've done this with clients, and I want to say, you that's it, you're done. We did what we could do. You got to do your thing. Call me if you need help, but you're done. When I said I'm finished, I went to the guy and said, listen, okay, I realized after a while, I'm like, okay, the last month or two, this is not going anywhere. I'm done. And I was already getting into all the energy and metaphysical work. And he was highly, you can't stop now. You're just getting through these times. I was like, no, I said, no, we're not going anywhere. So again, I go back to the same thing. Are you looking for me for my checks, or are you looking to empower me? Because my goal is this: when I empower somebody, what happens? I create a positive, powerful chain of energy where that person is now empowering others. That's how the world gets better. And the fear-based world we're in is about, I'm going to hold all the chips. which is why they don't teach people financial education. They don't teach people, no, I want to hold all the chips and I'm going to dole out one here and there to you. The only way we change the world is everybody's empowered. That's what we want to be. So the idea to me is to say, hey, if I keep helping people get empowered, they're going to help more people get empowered. That's the shift of energy that we're looking for at a much larger scale. So that's kind of what we want to do. And again, I think the therapists that's terrible that they do not. And again, I'm with you. I think therapy is great, but they're supposed to be the ones, they're the pros, right? It's like if I go to a doctor, I don't want you to tell me take something that I don't need so you could write me a prescription. That's another whole conversation. I don't trust the doctors at all because I think they're all motivated by giving me shots and making more money. They're not maybe going to say to me what's best for me. You got to be your own advocate and you have to be smart in this world today because there's a lot of these things going on that are not in your best interest. Use your judgment and your higher intuition to say, I want to get around these people. These people are really, truly here to help.
Yeah, I find it truly stunning and incredibly hard to believe that after all this time and money and genius that we haven't found a cure for cancer or diabetes.
Oh, we haven't.
Well, we probably have, except there's way more money in treating it.
We have it, but I'll give you a perfect example. This whole thing with the hydroxychloroquine and taking tonic water was very effective with COVID. They don't want to tell you that because I could buy a bottle of tonic water for $1 and I don't have to get 400 shots for it. So again, everything that's money driven, which is unfortunately almost everything, you have to be very leery. And I'm not saying it's not good for certain people or bad or whatever, but you're dealing with too much greed, and humans have a lot of greed, and there's a lot of greed for people. So you've got to be very careful that people are true and they're working with you for your highest good, not necessarily for their own pocket.
Joe, I could talk to you all day and well into next week, but we're running out of time, and I'm going to share my screen right now. Can you tell people how to reach you if they're interested in working with you or dealing with the type of things you help them with?
Yeah, so my main website is joenunz.com, which you see on the screen. If you want to do a session, if you email me, joe@joenunz.com, just put session in the subject line. I'll send you my calendar. I have limited numbers, so I'll send it to you. We can book it. It's about 30 minutes or so. We'll go over that. We'll see if I can help you out in any way. And I also have a free Spiritual Selling 2.0 webinar. You get instant access to that. It's at highenergyselling.com. So you could go there and check that out. It's about 30 minutes, but it kind of gives you an overview of the whole spiritual selling deal. The book is available, of course, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all those places that you get books. So that's the best way to get in touch with me. If you just want to, again, I'd love to talk to you if you want to have a conversation, if there's any way I can help you. And also, just so people know, I know a lot of people in this world, because sometimes people will call me for something very specific that I don't do. I know a lot of healers. I know a lot of mediums. I know a lot of different people who do different modalities. So sometimes people call me and say, I had a person call me recently. She was having issues with just external. Some people have like a very high sensitivity to all these cell phones and all this stuff. And I know somebody who does, that kind of work. And she was able to really help her get, deal with these things and make some changes. So, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you. Maybe me, I may know somebody else, but certainly love to talk to you.
And could there be anything more Brooklyn than Joe Nunz? Joe Nunz.
Well, I got Joe Nunz because nobody can spell my name. So I said, I better, and everybody always called me Joe Nunz. So I said, I'm just gonna get Joe. I have Jay Nunziata, but I have Joe Nunz because I said people can't, they couldn't get my name right. So I said, that's easy for people to just say Joe. And that's what everybody always called me when in Brooklyn growing up.
Too funny. Joe, I could talk to you all day and well into next month. Thank you so much for giving us your time today and sharing your brilliance so generously. For those of you who enjoy conversations like this, we're actually booked up through June right now to have great guests like Joe on. But I met somebody about a week and a half ago, and I was so impressed with what he's doing, and it's kind of related to what Joe does, that we're having a special session on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. His name is Dr. Phil Agrios, and he helps you with self-sabotage. He has programs where in actually one session, he claimed he can help you get rid of self-sabotage. And when I was introduced to him, I said, need to talk to you, my friend. Let's have a session right away. And I was so impressed. So Monday, this coming Monday at 2 o'clock, Tune in for Dr. Phil Agrios. There will be no live next Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and I'm taking the day off. But for those of you who are here in the United States, please have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Please realize that a lot of this is just head trash. But once we get to Thanksgiving, so many of you think, well, the year's over because you can't sell between now and the end of the year. No. It's just not true. You can create sales every single day of the year, all the way up until New Year's Eve, and then well, take the day off on New Year's Day, but please get that out of your head that your sales year is over. It is absolutely not. And also remember that all the work that you do now between now and the end of the year is really setting up your Q1. So now is not the time to take your foot off the gas. Go have a great time. Enjoy your turkey. And I'll end as I always do. Please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen, everybody. Thank you so much, Joe. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me.